It's January 19th, the time that we're recording this. And tomorrow's the big day, Inauguration Day. Jacob, how you doing?
I'm doing good, just thinking about wondering if anything big's going to happen tomorrow, if everyone's going to stay home like they're asked to, or are we going to have issues?
Yeah, well, they definitely have the manpower to stop anything from actually happening. I mean, they've got the place swarming with National Guards. And, I mean, this has been building up for roughly 2 weeks. And, maybe we don't see anything. I'm assuming we won't see any sort of weird militia, insurrection. We were supposed to see national protests, at every Capitol building in every state, but that never happened. So I'm assuming that the same thing is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are either too scared to go out or just really don't care.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to get yourself possibly shot and killed for something as trivial as this, I guess. I mean, no matter what side you're on, you can view it as this was, a lawful election or this was unlawful. And for years and years, there's always some form of cheating in every election. I mean, that's how it happens. It does. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But this was, I think this is a bit silly, in my opinion. Have any of your classes talked about Inauguration Day or going to discuss Inauguration Day?
I don't really think so. Not even my history class has really mentioned anything. Maybe it's because of the whole, the large, growing political divide that's causing us not to talk about it. But I haven't heard anyone say anything about discussion. But I'm not really any government class might. But I took government my freshman year. So
okay. Yeah, my legal world of business, the introduction to that, they are actually making us kind of take some notes about the impeachment trials that are going on, Trump's second impeachment, and just kind of get some of the facts. And he wants us to either defend the stance of this is a lawful impeachment or this was unlawful. And honestly, I sit front row. I'm not going to say anything. It's so hard to narrow down what actually happened just because of how quick news moves around and how many different stories get thrown around. I mean,
well, I've listened to Ben Shapiro, and some people scoff at him, but I listen to him a bit simply because he holds a strict, people will be like, oh, but he's a Republican, so it's kind of biased. But one thing that he does right is he has strict criteria for things, and he holds to it. He doesn't deviate from that criteria. He holds one side just as accountable for the same actions as he would the other side. And his personal take on it is about the whole incitement of violence and he said it in the past in regards to riots that may have been caused by Democrats or something like that. And he said that he does not believe it's incitement of violence because he defines incitement of violence as saying, you go cause violence, cause mayhem. And Trump didn't say that. He said, see you there. It's being stolen from us. He said words that would lead someone to maybe do violence, but he didn't call for it specifically. So in his terms, it wasn't incitement of violence. Now, could he have been part of the cause? Sure. But he doesn't think legally that there should be any ground to stand on based on what he said.
Yeah. I definitely understand, why they believe that there was an enticement of violence. I mean, tweeting...
there's no doubt. Even if he didn't say it, he might have thought it.
I mean, tweeting, what was it he tweeted? They stole it from us, see you there and all that stuff. I mean, when you have such an extremely radicalized political divide where... a lot of people are willing to go out and commit acts of violence, or I wouldn't say some would die, but a lot of them would go out and do some sort of, act of violence to try and, justify their beliefs. And this happens on, left or right, no matter what. And I could definitely see how he should be held accountable for kind of riling up, people. I mean, really, throughout this all, these past, months, I mean, there could have been a bit of better work to work on unifying and making a more smoother transition of, power. Because if you're sworn in to protect and serve the United States Constitution and uphold it to, the best of your ability, then you really should, peacefully that you're going to transition over. Because there was a lot of talks that he wasn't going to. There's a lot of articles about it. And
Right.
he tried, he tried to take it to the courts, saying, yes, all these elections were stolen from me in these states, and none of them found any, damning evidence that I know of to actually support his claim.
Right.
And so I think it all could have gone a bit smoother, but I don't see any of this political divide calming anytime soon.
No, I doubt it. Well, because I can see happening right now what happened 4 years ago. Back when Trump was elected, you had the radicals, and not even the radicals, even just some regular, run-of-the-mill Democrats saying, he's not my president, I won't accept it, whatever. Well, now you've got that exact same lines and statements being said by Republicans on the other side about Biden.
Absolutely. I think that the Republicans could use a bit of restructuring on their platforms, I guess. I mean, what they currently stand on, a lot of their beliefs are being tarnished every day, and I think they could use a bit of work and adapt to a few of the modern times. I think
their biggest downfall is not condemning stuff that should be stood against. There have been some that have denounced white supremacy, but that's not something that I've heard regularly. They say, because it gets brought up a lot. People tend to like white supremacists. They do. They tend to flock toward Republicans. I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's just some of the platforms, but there needs to be a strict line where they say, we do not support this. If you're a follower of us, please stop, kind of thing.
Yeah. Whenever you listen to a lot of the conversations had in the House or the Senate, it's always, yeah, well, you radical leftists, wanted this, and then they come back, it's yeah, well, you radical Republicans, did this, and it's just back and forth. I mean, there's no middle ground anymore, and so I don't know what it's going to take.
It seems like the middle ground has just kind of been pushed to the side and silenced or been run out.
Yeah, there just needs to be some sort of unifying factor here. I mean, coronavirus could have been either a perfect opportunity to unite a nation in a common cause, but instead it became a spread of misinformation, constant, media bias, constant false articles, false statements, misunderstandings of how it's transmitted. It just goes on and on. I mean, there were so many things that we did wrong. And I think that...
Well, then you've got cases where I've seen in cities where one person they'll have a restaurant and it's been closed up because it's not safe to eat outside. And then right across, 50 yards away, there's a food tent for a movie, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's straight bullshit. That's politics, and that shouldn't be ever in an issue like a pandemic.
Yeah, I think we should also hold ourselves responsible as well. I mean, it's the duty of every American to at least serve for the common good, every day. At least do something to better the society that they live in. But we got a long, long way to go. But these next 4 years are going to be very, very trivial. And it could be a turning point for the country as a whole. I mean, it could be good or bad. I say either we find that middle ground again, or we continue just these polarizations of, these two parties run, the nation. And if you're not on my side, you're on the other.
Yeah, I see that talked about all the time. It's like, if you're not with us, you're against us kind of thing. And it seems like the only way anything gets done is one side will point the finger at the other side and say, they're evil, this is wrong, we have to fix it because they messed up and they're evil. And that's what I hear being slung across on both sides.
Yeah.
It doesn't help anything. It just makes it worse.
Yeah. One thing that really scares me as we move into a new transition, a different presidency, is some of the changes in some of these nominees. Like the Treasury nominee says that she believes that capital gains tax should be taxed at some point, and this had to do with I believe it was the 1031 exchanges. Look that up on your own time. I'm not going to try and explain it, but that's kind of a segue into taxing, some of your gains if you're an investor. And one thing I'm terrified about is there are talks of even taxing your unrealized gains. So what position you have, what gains you have, even though you haven't sold, could be taxed, when it came around time, instead of, holding on and then, getting taxed about 5 years down the road whenever it came time.
Well, that's disgusting because I'm going to point it out for someone who's like, oh, good, stick it to the big investors and stuff. No, that hurts you too. If you are being diligent with your money and you are investing, that's going to hurt everybody. It's going to hurt the small man, the person trying to save up for retirement. This hurts everybody. Mm-hmm. This kind of gains tax on your investments, especially your unrealized ones, like you said. That's not right, in my opinion. I think it's theft to do something like that. Yeah. Especially if it's not a real gain. If it's an unrealized gain, that's basically like potential gain. How can you tax on something that hasn't happened? That's
you would
theft,
have to,
in my opinion,
liquidate your position. Now, obviously, this isn't guaranteed. This is just the rumor mill was spinning, and there were talks of that being a possibility in the coming years. I should clarify that. It's not like set in stone. Obviously, they got to draft it up, and then they got to change things, etc., etc. But that is absolutely scary to me, and it shows me that there's this like weird mindset of only the rich, are allowed to invest or have the money to. I mean, I'm trading on the stock market, every day. I mean, I'm starting to invest, and it's scary to me that there's, we were talking about polarizations earlier. I mentioned that, and there's a polarization that only the rich have money to invest, and so we need to get more taxes on to investments, because there's talks of possibly even raising the dividend tax more than what it is, as well as long-term capital gains and short-term capital gains. And this just keeps taking money away from people who are putting their money to work, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, think about your small mom and pop store. They probably invest to save for the future. They have some money set aside that they hope is going to grow in case the business fails, or just in general to keep money saved back for retirement. Because, newsflash, if you're self-employed, you don't get the benefits of that. I mean, there's Social Security, but, before long, that's probably going to be dead. And if we keep getting taxed on every single gain we make on everything, no one's going to have any money for their future. And in my opinion, I think that's what the government wants. Like, it's my personal opinion. The government wants people to rely on them because that's how they hold power over you. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's right.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I mean, it's a weird mindset of that the government is financially responsible for my decisions. Because I know there's a lot of people aren't actually like financially aware, because they weren't educated about it when they were younger. No one's going to tell you how to put your money to work through a Roth IRA, traditional IRA, taxable accounts, how to, the effects of compounding dividends, etc., etc. How much you should save, things like that.
No one talks about that. I feel like if they were to teach something like that in high school, we'd have less of people having an issue with investors and trying to throw heavy taxes on investors in that sense, because you would have more people going out on the stock market, more people willing to invest, having the knowledge to invest for themselves and not thinking, oh, that's a rich people thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe they should make a proposal to tax trust funds pretty heavily. Maybe that'll get all these kids to realize what exactly is going on.
Yeah.
But I'd like to remain hopeful that we can, get socially progressive here and financially smart soon. There's going to be loosened tariffs most likely with China, because Trump worked very hard on that, because he wanted to get focused more on American production, which we could do, but it's not like we don't have the greatest infrastructure for it. And so,
our issue is, we don't have, the idea of having everything made in the USA is great if we had the ability to manufacture everything anyone would ever want in the USA, which, newsflash, we don't. Your iPhone is not made in the USA. It cannot be made in the USA. To my knowledge, we don't have the infrastructure for that. The metals we need, the manufacturing processes, they're all in China.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of our resources come from. And so once those tariffs are loosened up, we have, greater trade, and it will be cheaper for a lot of businesses and corporations to produce their products. So, we'd see more people being hired because, we're selling more, as well as you have a federal minimum wage increase is coming up to $15, I believe. And so you're going to see a bit of a, drop in employment. And then eventually, once we kind of, resettle and find, the rate of inflation with our consumer goods prices, we'll see a slow economic recovery from there.
That's what happens when you raise the minimum wage. Although I know Missouri just raised theirs, but it doesn't apply to people who work in, I believe, retail and fast food. So, the jobs that would prefer a little bit higher pay, it doesn't affect them anyway.
Yeah, the guys who are getting paid minimum wage aren't
even getting the minimum wage increase, which is kind of crazy to think about. I was reading that. I was like, oh, good. That means if I can finally get hired for a job, I'll be getting paid a little more. Nope. Wrong.
Yep. Yeah.
Not getting any pay increase.
All I know is the poor keep getting poorer and the middle class keep getting poorer. It happens every year. I hope that we can see a bit of money being moved from these massive mega corporations back to local stores and small-owned businesses, because that's exactly what happened in this pandemic. When you shut down all of these small businesses, you're getting stuck with, what's your option? What was deemed essential? Fast food places were deemed essential. And when you're, at home and you get your stimulus check and you want some food, you're going to order, from a fast food place, and you're going to buy something off of Amazon. And all your local restaurants and, small-owned stores nearby are all forced to be shut down. But don't worry.
Luckily, in some of the bigger cities, some of your mom-and-pop places can survive a little bit. To my knowledge, they started opening back up to be used with, like, Uber Eats.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
They tried that.
But in a small town like we grew up in, that's not an option. Now, our local government allowed you to have carryout. And so we had one restaurant that they actually put in windows off of what would have originally been their dining area to make an ordering area. And you would wait in your car until there was a few enough people. Then you walk up to the window, take your order, go back in your car, and then you would wait till your order was up, and then you go grab it and leave.
Yeah, that's super cool. That did kind of help, but I know back in March, actually, I believe it was roughly or actually no, it was May, roughly 75% of small businesses had to seek federal aid. And only 38% of survey respondents in the Wall Street Journal's survey that they did actually received funds through the Paycheck Protection Program. And that was in May. So I bet you at least 90% of those restaurants are not, or businesses are not coming back. And that's
right. Well, we lost one. I think I've talked about this before. We lost one here in Maryville, where I'm going to college, and yeah, it was sad. Everyone was sad to see it go, but that was a unique circumstance. It was supposed to have been sold, and then the buyer backed out.
Yeah.
And so I think it's sitting empty, and I don't know what's going to happen with that property.
Yeah, no, we, here at my college town, I don't think there's any restaurants or anything like that were lost. I know there's one that's actually still closed and plans on opening, I believe, during the summertime, roughly. I think that's when they planned on it, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because, now you have a lot of your college kids are back. They're all back in town.
Maybe they're waiting for vaccines.
That could be it. But I know that it's going to take a long time to get people vaccinated. I think that, I think I read somewhere that they were going to have at least 50 million vaccinated by April or so, I believe.
That's pretty good.
It was probably less than that, but I know vaccination rates are lower than what they want right now.
Well, I know there's like a counter now, like in places where you used to be able to see or would show like the death count and the ill count. Now there's also a vaccinated count.
One thing that is kind of scary to me that has popped up recently is that there's talks of, I believe, the UK doing a vaccine passport. So you have to show proof that you have the vaccine and you can travel.
Interesting.
And I think that the World Health Organization is trying to stop that from happening.
But why?
I'd assume it's for some ethical reason, but that is a scary thing to me.
I mean, it does. I mean, it makes sense. If you want people to travel, and you're trying to help stop the spread of COVID, if they're vaccinated, they shouldn't be an issue, and therefore should be allowed to continue their life. I think it's scary
to me because that's essentially saying that's like a checkpoint. Stop here, give us proof that you can go through here, and you can. And I don't like that. I do not like that at all. That's just another, you could say it's a form of freedom being taken away from you. Because people have a choice.
But we don't have that freedom right now anyway, so what does it matter?
Exactly. I just don't like the idea of having a checkpoint that you have to go through before you can travel either abroad or somewhere else. I mean,
quite honestly, I'd feel safer if they did that for regular vaccinations anyway. I don't want someone spreading measles to my kids. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, measles is still pretty dangerous. I mean, a lot of the vaccines that
people forget how dangerous these are, and they won't vaccinate their kids because they're like, oh, it's not that big a deal. Medicine's come a long way. Yeah, because we haven't had to deal with this. That doesn't mean that it's any less dangerous than it was back when we eradicated it, or mostly eradicated it before. If we're not careful, polio might make a comeback because there's still areas of the world that do have polio. It's just been eradicated on most of Earth right now, but there's still cases of polio. So I'm sure if we're not careful, we might end up with polio again, and I don't think anybody wants that.
Yeah, I do remember talking about that my first year at university, and I was a health science pre-med, and I do remember learning about vaccines and talking about like polio is almost eradicated. It has I think it was left in 3 more countries, at least reports that they found, and they were worried that here in America there's a fairly there's a good percentage that don't vaccinate their children for polio because they haven't seen it before. They don't know how bad it is. it's one of those things, oh, well, it's gone here, but, it's not gone somewhere else.
One of the things that saddens me is they're like, well, I don't want to do it because it might cause autism. And I'm like, now, even if that were true, kid with autism, kid with polio, I'd rather take the autistic kid. Because you know what? They're still your kid, and you're going to love them either way.
Yeah.
Polio is going to be a lot harder to deal with.
I really just want what's best for my children, and their health and safety is definitely going to be a number one priority. And I think it would just be stupid. I'm going to say, no, it is stupid to not vaccinate your child. And I will die on that
It shocks
hill.
me that we have to say something like this, that people even have to make PSAs about vaccinating your kids. And I get it. The distrust of doctors and stuff like that. But you can't just go on Facebook to find information about stuff like this. If you want to do actual research about what vaccines do and how they work, pick up a medical journal. Don't peruse Facebook's anti-vax groups.
Yeah. You reap what you sow, and if you continuously, tell yourself or feed yourself information that says, oh, this is bad, you're going to believe it's bad. And
yeah,
I remember
that's just human nature.
And I do remember seeing a video of a man at a anti-vaxxer rally, and he was asking people if they were doctors. And I think he asked like 100 people, and like all of them said no. He was like, well, that kind of sums it up already.
Yeah, I have to say, if you're a doctor and you're against vaccinations, shame on you.
I don't know. If
you don't have solid medical proof that you can show to the rest of the world, then shame on you.
Yeah.
If you've come up with some crazy eureka moment that says, oh, there's an issue with our vaccines, cool, fix it.
Yeah, the wildest thing to me is that people think they're being microchipped.
Oh my god.
That shit's so funny.
I've heard about that one. Be like, oh, they're going to microchip us.
I was like, you're telling me you're not already microchipped? I mean, you literally have...
you carry a spy brick in your pocket.
Yeah, you're assigned a number at birth. You have a social security number. And you carry around a phone that literally records everything you says and sells it to people. So no, you're not... you're not...
They don't need a microchip. We already have that.
Yeah, the government doesn't...
It's called your phone.
Yeah, the government doesn't need to microchip you. They already know everything they need to know. There's a reason people, disappear in the dark and are never heard from again. I wonder who started the microchip movement.
I don't know. It's probably the same. I hate to lump those groups together, but it's probably the same type of people that's like Flat Earth and anti-vax. Probably also just microchips. Yeah, why not microchips? Yeah, just throw that on there. Along with mind control serum. Why not? Just throw that in there too.
Yeah, well, the most recent microchip rumor was that Bill Gates essentially started this pandemic so he could get everyone microchipped through the vaccine.
Jesus.
I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I don't think Bill Gates and the Chinese government are on good standing. So,
no.
Yeah, do with that as you may. Same thing with Google.
Yeah, no. Here,
if you want to blame Google for that one too, let me let you know. Chinese government, the communist Chinese government, does not like that either.
Yeah, no. Here, they did a new YouGov poll of 1,640 people, and it suggested that 28% of Americans believe that Bill Gates want to use vaccines to implant microchips in people.
28%?
Yes. Now this is a very small control group, obviously.
Okay.
So take it with a grain of salt. It's more like
enough.
Probably 18 or 10. But still, that's a lot of people.
But still, 28% of the people surveyed. Yikes. I didn't realize 28% of the population was like deranged. Like what?
Mm-hmm. They say that it would allow people to be tracked and personal information would not be entered in a database. Wait, however, the technology is not a microchip and is more likely to be an invisible tattoo. It has not been rolled out yet, would not allow people to be tracked, and personal information would not be entered into a database. And this is in reference to... No, this was in reference to an article that was funded by the Gates Foundation into a technology that could store someone's vaccines record in a special ink, administered at the same time as an injection.
That's different. Even if there was something like that, I might honestly feel more safe with a record. But I mean, it doesn't have to be on your skin. Like you could just have it on your phone or something. Would be honestly better. I'd rather not put some weird invisible tattoo on my body.
Well,
but if the purpose is to track what vaccines you have, hey, we have like vaccine cards, and those medical records are shared, between medical professionals.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't worry too much about that. There's not really a need for that.
Yeah, what were the vaccines that they make you get whenever you go to high school or college, or even elementary school?
Well, I know, like when you're a kid, there's the MMR, the Tdap.
Yeah,
and then
that's when you
have to get
a baby. Yeah.
Boosters on some of your other stuff when you're in high school.
I think that's what it is.
Tetanus booster. You need your tetanus booster. And I think there's a couple others. One of them is for like and the ones that you get like boosters and vaccinated for in high school, we let you know the ones you're getting vaccinated for are ones with like high death rates. That's why you're getting vaccinated, not because it helps the population or helps the man control you. It's because if you didn't get that and you caught it, there's a high likelihood that you will die.
Yeah, no, in high school it is just the little boosters, and that's for HPV, tetanus, diphtheria, whooping cough, meningococcal.
Well, the whooping cough, yeah.
The meningococcal disease.
No, that's the one. Yeah, no, that's the one I'm talking about. Like, if you catch that, you're probably gonna die.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'd say, I mean, it's not common either, so I'm sure it's fairly interesting to
but
treat.
I think there was someone in our community that caught, I don't know if it's meningococcal but there was something. It was like a virus, and he got really sick, and he just like coughed up blood and died.
Ooh. Here it is. Signs and symptoms of meningococcal disease usually start suddenly and include fever, headache, and a stiff neck. It can start with symptoms similar to the flu. Often people with meningococcal disease also have nausea, vomiting, increased sensitivity to light, rash, and confusion. And they can also have a form of life-threatening sepsis as well. Damn.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking at some pictures of it right now. It's got it's very, very dotty. Like they leave little like blotches on your skin. Ugh. Yeah, just moral of the story, just please vaccinate your children. For the love of all things holy. I mean, it's not that hard. It's not that hard.
Yeah, a lot of these ones that have been around for a long time aren't exactly super expensive vaccines anyway.
Oh, no. Most of them, I think, actually...
Like if it's about money, a lot of these aren't expensive, relatively speaking.
I think schools actually get funded for distributing these vaccines, or at least the boosters. I could be wrong.
Right. And I'm pretty sure you can't get into public universities without some of these.
Yeah, no, I do remember I had to show some paperwork showing that when I was last vaccinated for something, and I was like, shit, I have no idea. And I think I just got the booster in high school without really knowing, because I didn't really care. I was like, yeah, I'm just getting a, shot, during the physical, like, wellness checks and things like that. And those were kind of interesting, too, when you think about it. I mean, I don't know if that's done really in major schools, what we did.
Oh, well, I'm sure they did. It was just different than how we had done it.
I'm going to look that up, actually. Do big city high schools do a form of... I got to think of how to word this. Was it a physical fitness, oh, gosh.
Well, they were just, like, physical, like, exams.
Physicals. exams. Yeah, here it is. I think they do these in deeper high schools.
The health screening. It's what it is. It's just health screening.
They probably don't do it to the extent that we did, though. I mean, we did like everything. I think these that they do more or less are just making sure you have your boosters and probably making sure that your weight and all that stuff is recorded. I could be wrong. I don't know, man. I'm blind to like half the world, living in a small town all my life. I'm just trying to piece it all together.
Yeah, honestly.
Oh man, I saw a thing on Twitter. I wanna throw this in before we get ready to sign off here. It was a Twitter video of a couple, and it's a TikTok, and it's on the money side of Twitter. So it's got to be good, right? And this guy goes in to explain how he trades, to make like a living and pay for all their like expenses and stuff. And he says, so my strategy more or less is I see a stock go up and then I buy and then I watch it go up and then I sell when it stops going up. I was like, are you kidding me?
That's the most bullshit advice I've heard in my entire life.
I was like, that's the dumbest thing I have ever heard. But then again, man, we live in the most inflated market of all time currently. Obviously, I'm sure it'll only either get worse or get better, but we pretty much live in a pump and dump market. People are buying shitty meme stocks like GameStop. Have you seen that?
No, I didn't hear about that, but GameStop is a dying company.
Yes, so GameStop, roughly 5 years ago, I'm gonna go to 5. Actually, I'll go to the max here. So
GameStop is the Blockbuster of our era.
Yes. So in 2002, GameStop was about $10 a share in February. Then in 2008, it got up to about $60, which makes sense because that was kind of the height of Xbox 360, PlayStation, and I think that was really the only options you had, more or less. Then in like July of 2011, it was $23. Then in October 15th, 2013, it was $50, which I believe was because of the Xbox One console, or is the Xbox...
The new consoles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then sometime around, I don't know, I'd say probably 2016, 17, or 18, it probably starts dipping because that's when the Game Pass and stuff starts to roll out.
Mm-hmm. And then in 2020, for a good chunk of 2020, all the way up until roughly August, it was trading from $4. It was trading around $4. Now it's at almost $40. It's at $39.36.
Maybe they come out with no. I don't know how I can't defend that. I'm sorry. Even online retailers don't do near as good as something like Xbox Game Pass because of the convenience of it. It's built into your console. The functionality's there. You don't have to worry about getting game codes and typing them in.
Mm-hmm. It's a better
deal for the consumer too because you're paying this flat rate versus having to pay for each game. You can pay to have a bunch at your disposal, and then if you can't afford it anymore, you've played all the games available, you just cancel your subscription and go on.
Mm-hmm. Really, the only thing kind of driving GameStop up to these ridiculously high prices was because of a short squeeze, it's whenever the stock has a very rapid increase. Mainly just due to technical factors in the analysis rather than like fundamentals. So this is literally just a pump, and most likely we're going to see a dump as well. And this was kind of fueled by Wall Street Bets, that Reddit, that subreddit, where it's just all like the memey like options traders that literally YOLO weekly expiring out of the money calls and lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's so dumb, man. I talked about this.
I don't look at Wall Street Bets. I might have to look at it occasionally just to look at the insane, stupid moves people make, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever follow advice off Wall Street bets unless you want to lose your house.
Yeah.
Or most of your wallet at the very least.
Exactly. All right. Well, Jacob, anything you want to say to the listeners before we sign off here?
Vaccinate your kids and don't take a stranger's financial advice.
You heard it here first here in Harrison's Happy Hour. What have we learned? As Jacob said, vaccinate your children and stop YOLOing your money.